Well, it's proven to be a very popular segment, nothing like a good book. I'm glad that my listeners are enjoying this. We've had some fabulous authors on and some fabulous books to talk about. None the least this next one, because I got a call last week actually from somebody, and they said, Mark, have you heard about Hush Money? I said, what do you mean Hush Money? I mean, I haven't got a clue. By Jacquie Abram. It's earned the top 10 spot on findthisbest.com's Best African American Christian Fiction Book List. I said, I don't have a clue, mate. Dingo's Tail in the Outback. I've never heard of it. So I made a point of reading the darn thing. Well, I got to tell you, folks, this is a winner. Jacquie Abram's book, Hush Money, How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in Her Workplace and Kept Her Job. It's sparking worldwide attention since official launch in March of 2021, just gone, alongside a slew of solid reviews. FindThisBest.com, which looked at the satisfaction surveys of over 1,170 consumers, and they placed Hush Money in the top 10 of their best African American Christian fiction books list. You know, I mean, Hush Money is also ranked number 1 on Goodreads, Dystopia, for eye-opening African American women's fiction. Isn't that fabulous? Good job. Now, it's inspired by true events. This is the thing, you see. You can't beat the truth, can you? Hush Money tells a compelling and cautionary tale that is all too familiar to black people across the globe about the rigors of working in a large, highly bureaucratic organization and dealing with covert and overt racism. I welcome, and I'm proud to welcome, author Jacquie Abram.
Thank you so much for having me. I am just thrilled to be here.
Well, this was a group effort done with your daughters, I believe, Jacquie.
That is correct. Basically, my daughters and I decided, after experiencing our own battles with racism in the workplace and suffering severe racial trauma that was so horrific that each one of us, even though we were dealing with very different organizations and different industries, the end result was the same. We were traumatized to the point where we pulled ourselves out of corporate America, I being the first one, because I just couldn't take what was happening to me. And then as I watched it happening to my children and watching them go through the same issues and suffering the same trauma and becoming traumatized, you know, we decided that we wanted to add our voices to the conversation, Mark, because you don't really hear a lot about racism in the workplace. You know, there's a lot of movies and television shows and books that talk about racism, but Mark, if you notice, they're always talking about the type of racism that occurred decades ago when it was more overt and easily spotted, right?
Right, yes. Well, from what I can see, Hush Money unveils the horrors of modern-day systemic racism in corporate America. I mean, levels and types of discrimination. Yeah, they're chronicled in the 5-year journey of Emily Ardoin. Is that right? Ebony Ardoin?
That is correct.
Okay, she's an ambitious, young black woman in search of a fulfilling and rewarding career path that allows her to try to live the American dream.
That is correct. So, you know, Hush Money tells a modern day story of David against a corporate Goliath with Ebony, a young black woman who has already been so much even before her story gets going. She's living in poverty with her sick mother who is dying of terminal cancer. She's living with her after having been in a safe house for abused women. She's going through a divorce, and she's also trying to get her son back. But as she's battling these own personal issues, all Ebony ever wanted was a chance to live the American dream, Mark. And you know what that is, where you can...
No, tell me what it is, will you? I came here 18 years ago for that, and I'm still looking... Well, I'm doing it. I should be so lucky. I mean, you know, talking to people like you, my heart listens. I mean, Ebony's story reveals layers of emotional complexity, racial trauma. You know, each new promotion invites praise, jealous rancor, outright loathing. organizational politics. I mean, I couldn't put the darn thing down. There's a twist every corner, every paragraph. In fact, Grady Harp, who's, the Amazon Top 100 Hall of Fame reviewer, she gave you 5 stars on this. The novel is visceral, stunningly well written, and places the heated scar of racism squarely before our eyes. It's a powerful novel that deserves a place in everyone's library. Bravo. Wasn't that lovely?
That's awesome. That was. And we're getting a lot of great feedback. For our book to have only been officially launched in March, so several months ago, right now we have 93 Amazon reviews and a 5-star rating. And we also have 5-star reviews across other platforms. But the one that I notice a lot of people really drive to and home in on are those Amazon reviews. And so to have 93 and a 5-star rating is just spectacular, for me and my daughters.
Yeah. Well, you say you left corporate America after your own experiences with systemic racism, traumatized, and it nearly destroyed you. I mean, how was that?
So, Mark, if you can just imagine for a moment, I'm going to ask you to maybe just imagine for a moment what it's like to be someone who is Black or brown, and you get this job like Ebony that you think is going to give you the chance to live the American dream and have this equal opportunity to take this good job that you've gotten. And with the income that you get from that job, you can buy a house, you can own a car, you can have enough money to not only provide for your families, but also pay your bills. And so this is what I experienced. I had a great job and a great career, Mark. I worked in higher education, and my career spanned nearly 2 decades. But as you're working in your job, things can be going well in the beginning, which was the case with Ebony and was also the case with me. You get hired in an organization and they can obviously see that you're a Black person or you're a brown person, and they hire you based on your skill set. And you just have this idea that, they hired me knowing that I'm Black and things are going well and I can actually work this job and retire from it. But a lot of times, Mark, what happens is a very subtle change in the organization occurs. In Ebony's case, she started out with an amazing boss who thought very highly of her, who worked with her, who just really valued and respected her skills. But unfortunately, something happened, and this boss that she thought was the best boss in the world left. And so now he's replaced with a new boss, and the new boss didn't see Ebony the way that he did. And so that's where her problems with racial discrimination began, and that is often the case of what happens to a lot of us. So in my career, I've got this great career and this great job that's going extremely well. There's a subtle change in the organization, and now I am being targeted and I am being discriminated against, and I'm experiencing racism that is so horrific and so severe, Mark, that it took me to the brink of despair. I myself almost killed myself because it was so overwhelming. In Ebony's case, Ebony's racial trauma was so overwhelming for her, and the book describes in vivid detail what she went through, but she experienced both suicidal thoughts, but Mark, also homicidal thoughts, because she wanted to literally kill her boss. And so those are signs of racial trauma.
She wouldn't be Robinson Crusoe with that one. You understand that, don't you? I feel for her, but you can't do that. Now, look, the thing is this. You left corporate America after your own experiences. It was pretty traumatic. But during your career in higher education, spanning, I think, 2 decades, 2001 to 19, you were discriminated against because you were Black multiple times by multiple employers in the U.S., but the same thing happened to Deborah Harris during her 15-year career in higher education and municipal government spanning from, 25 to 221. And the same thing happened to Delilah Harris during her 10-year career in higher education, customer service, medical billing and coding, and property management. So in all three cases, it seems their careers were, repeatedly derailed. And it's wrong.
And so that was something we really felt compelled to show to the readers and to help people who are interested in getting a deeper level of understanding about systemic racism in the workplace. It's not a one-time thing for us. So, you can be in a bad job, for example, and you can make the decision, if you can afford to leave that job because things are so bad there that you just don't want to stay because you're losing your sanity, right? So you can decide, I can't take it. I'm going to resign to keep my sanity and go to the next job. But the problem with that, Mark, is that it usually starts up at the next place too. And so in Ebony's case, this is a woman who's living in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got this job now after years of working dead-end jobs that's paying her the most money that she's ever made at $16 an hour. And she's a single mom. She has a sick mother that she's caring for. So she couldn't easily walk away from this job because it's paying her the most she's ever made. And this is a situation where, she didn't have a huge resume of skills where she could just go out and get another high-paying job. So she had to stick it out. But what she decided to do when these things started happening to her, and she's noticing that, people are treating her different, they're embarrassing her, they're humiliating her, they're trying to paint her as this bad, incompetent employee when she knows that she's not. As she's going through these things, she said, maybe I can just suffer in silence and not say anything, and eventually it will go away. But Mark, that was a bad choice for her because it didn't go away. The racism and the targeting actually got worse. And so as the years go by and she's navigating this horrific environment that she's found herself in, she decides, okay, I can't suffer in silence. I can't resign because I need this job, but maybe I can just stay off the grid. I can just stay below the radar and keep doing the best job that I know how to do and wait this out. And something will happen that will change the trajectory of what's happening to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a bad choice too, Mark, because
goes on and on, doesn't it? It just doesn't end. Abraham, Harris, and Harris. You all wrote Hush Money because, really you want to provide those who are currently dealing with racism in the workplace with a sound strategy. One black woman used to successfully prove the existence of racism in the workplace. They all want to provide employers who are looking for a more effective way, So, you wrote the book to provide people who have never experienced systemic racism in the workplace, but, are allies in the fight for equality and justice. So, with a way to understand what modern day racism looks like and feels, by putting them into the shoes. But surely today, Jacquie, it must be extremely different. You've only got to look sideways at a woman and you're in an office. Now, isn't that the same for black, white, brown, or pink?
Well, I'll tell you, when you're dealing with racism, a lot of people, they like to use this term, and I don't know if you've ever heard this term called unconscious bias. Have you ever heard that term before?
Yes, I have, yes.
Okay, so, unconscious bias refers to people who have these biases and they're unintentional. They don't really, it's unconscious. They don't really know what they're doing is wrong. That is not what happens to our people of color in the workplace. The people who intentionally target us, they are not doing it unconsciously. They know what they're doing, and they're doing it in such a horrific and severe and abusive way with the full-blown knowledge of this is going to result in this person losing this job, which is our ultimate goal. We want that person out of here.
Yeah, so it's like a setup, in other words, right? You've got no chance against that.
Exactly. You don't have a chance against it. And so, earlier when we first started talking, I started telling you about, how you really don't hear about modern day racism in the workplace because a lot of the books, the TV shows and the movies focus on racism that occurred decades ago when it was more overt and easily spotted. Well, Mark, today's racism in the workplace has morphed. It is more covert, it is more hidden, and it is much, much harder to prove. So I'll give you an example of what covert racism looks like as opposed to overt racism, right?
Okay, all right.
So with overt racism, let's say you walk down the hallway, as you're on your way to the lunchroom, and someone calls you the N-word.
Oh, surely not. Surely not. That doesn't go on, does it?
Well, this is just an example of overt, the easily spotted version.
Okay. All right. Let's run with that.
So if it's easily spotted, let's say you're walking down the hallway and you're on your way to the lunchroom and someone calls you the N-word in public for the whole world to hear. Mm-hmm. Well, you could prove that happened, right? Because everyone heard it and he did it in the open. Mm-hmm. But Mark, that's not the way modern day racism works. Modern day racism, as I mentioned, is hidden. It's more covert. So let me give you an example of what that looks like. Let's say you are an employee and you're working in the organization, and I'm giving you an example right out of my book from Ebony's situation. You are doing great in your job. Things are going well, and you're actually doing so well, you're getting promoted. Okay, you've got a great salary because remember, they're paying her the highest salary she's ever made, and it was pretty good. And they're even promoting her, right? So here's where the hidden part of racism comes into play. You get promoted, but the person who has been assigned to train you doesn't want you in that position, and so they intentionally train you the wrong way. They tell you all the wrong things on this job that they themselves have been doing correctly and perfectly for years. But they don't want to give you their knowledge because they don't want you to succeed. So instead, they set you up for failure and train you the completely wrong way. So that's just one example of a covert racism, because how do you prove that this person intentionally trained you the wrong way? Mm-hmm. That's what makes it harder to prove. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, but I'd like to throw a spanner in the works. How do I know as a boss upstairs, right, when I'm getting one report or one, feedback, so to speak, that it isn't, let's say, an Ebony playing on those situations? How do you define sometimes what is the truth?
That's why my book is spreading like wildfire right now across Black and Brown communities, because it's really difficult to do that, Mark. And that's why a lot of people in the Black and Brown communities, they usually take one of those impossible choices that I was telling you about, where they suffer in silence and don't say anything because they know they're not going to be believed, or they resign to keep their sanities and try to find a different job that's not going to have the same issues that they're experiencing here. Or they try to wait it out and they're set up and they don't have a way to prove that what they're saying is true because it's hard. And so what Hush Money is doing as it's spreading like wildfire is it's giving people in our Black and Brown communities hope, Mark, because they're saying, wow, we've gone through so much and we either quit or we either got fired or we lost ourselves in the process. But this woman, she not only fought racism, but she actually was able to prove it and keep her job, which is just unheard of.
Yeah,
just unheard of.
So there's hope for us all. Look, you wrote this book with the daughters. How can those who have never experienced racism in the workplace do you think be allies to you, to the cause? You know, I mean, other than buying the book and getting more understanding, what else could they do?
There's a lot that they can do, but Mark, in order to really be effective in being an ally and doing things to make positive change, you have to understand it. And so what my book Hush Money does is it actually puts the person into the shoes of a racial discrimination victim to see and feel the full impact of racism in a real and modern way, because you can't change something that you don't understand. And, Mark, I'll just say this. You've heard of diversity trainings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Diversity trainings have been around for decades. I mean, decades. But something happened last year surrounding the brutal killing of George Floyd. When that occurred, and it was on the media, on every media outlet for the world to see.
Yep.
Something changed in the way that people had previously thought about racism. And so this is what was a catalyst to people like yourself and others who have never experienced racism, but they know that it's wrong and they want to get a deeper understanding so that they can help.
Well, I got to tell you, I had experienced racism in my own country with our own, Aboriginal people. In fact, Australia got to apologise a few years back to the whole system had to be, seriously looked at. But very different to coming to America, not being brought up here, then learning through documentaries. I mean, I have seen so much from the beginning of it all. And, I see both sides in some ways. I don't condone the actions, but I also see poor me, chip on shoulders, won't work, bringing up kids without fathers. I see all the other side too. But by gee, I hate the side, and why you wrote this book, I hate this side of it, and it's not fair what does happen to people of color in the work. I mean, what's the biggest advice that you could possibly give to anybody now going into the workforce of color?
So my biggest advice, I'll tell you, Mark, I get contacted every single day by at least 24 people in 3 different groups, actually. So I'd love to share that with you. The first group of people that contacts me every day are people of color. In fact, I get contacted by, and it's not just here in America, I'm getting contacted by Black and brown people from New Zealand, from Canada, from Egypt, from Nigeria, from Uganda, from the United Kingdom. So I'm getting contacted from all sorts of different countries and from people who want to protect themselves. And so I don't know if you've had a chance to go on Amazon and look at the reviews, but if you look at the reviews that you can clearly see are written by people of color, the themes are really clear. They see my book, Hush Money, How One Woman Proved Systemic Racism in Her Workplace and Kept Her Job, as their survival guide. And they're reading this book, they're stepping into the shoes of Ebony, and they're looking at everything she went through and all the mistakes that she made, and then the consequences and retaliation that she suffered from those mistakes, but then how she learned from those mistakes and got smarter and came up with unconventional methods people would never think of in a million years to fight back, survive the battle, win the war, keep her job, and bring this organization to their knees. And so Black and brown people in our community are reading this, they're adopting her methods, and then they're going back to their jobs and implementing her strategies.
That's fabulous. But
Mark, remember I said there's another group of people reaching out to me as well, which is just amazing to me. I get contacted by employers. Who saw what happened to George Floyd, and something just really sparked inside them. And they are wanting to know why their diversity trainings haven't really been as effective as they thought they would be because they've been doing them for years.
Mm-hmm.
But their turnover rate with Black and brown people is still very high.
Mm-hmm.
And they still have people coming forward complaining about racism and racial discrimination. And do you know what I tell those employers, Mark, when they contact me and they tell me, what can I do because my diversity trainings clearly aren't working?
Well, as it is, I mean, you've recently launched your career as an anti-racism consultant, focusing on educating and training and facilitating discussions on the impact of systemic racism in the workplace. I mean, in closing this, because we're running out of time, but what does that look like for you now, briefly? Where do you see this going for you?
So my hope is that everyone who is interested in getting a deeper understanding of what systemic racism in the workplace really looks like in modern day, those hidden covert aspects that you really can't see and are much harder to prove, this is the book for you, because it's going to take you on a journey with Ebony, and it's going to put you into her shoes. So you get to see the full impact, including the different layers of racial trauma that this woman went through. And if you're an employer and you're wanting to prevent racism in the workplace, what better way to start than to bring this book to your leadership team and your management team and share this book with them so they can see and feel what this woman went through, but more importantly, how she learned to fight back and turn the tables and prove what she was experiencing. Because if you have anyone in your organization that is discriminating on a covert level, that is doing racism on a covert level, what better way to get them to stop than to show them what the people of color are learning and how they're going to fight back without you knowing they're doing it.
Very good. Very good. Nice way to finish this, Jackie. There's a lot of common sense in what you say. Folks, the book is Hush Money. It's by Jacquie Abraham. It's in the top 10 spot on Find. By the way, where can people buy this, Jacquie?
My book is on sale in many platforms, but the one that I recommend everyone go to is Amazon, because my book is on sale for only $6 there. That's about what you pay for a cup of coffee. And you're going to get a wealth, just an eye-opening experience. Mark, I have so many people who have never experienced racism, who are Caucasian, for example.
Right. Eyes wide open.
Their eyes are wide open, and the reviews really tell what they are learning from this book. And it warms my heart to see that, for the first time, they're actually able to really deeply understand and relate. And now they can take that knowledge and help us to promote and to make positive change.
Well, good luck with it, Jacquie. Jacquie Abraham. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is Hush Money. $6. That's the coffers of, petty cash out of the till, and it's probably one of the most, enjoyable and smart tools you could get for the corporation. Okay? Jacquie Abraham, Hush Money. Thanks, Jacquie. Good luck with your future.
Thank you so much. And if I just might say one final closing thought, Mark, I appreciate everyone who spends $6 and buys my book, because I am doing my best to fight racism one book at a time, because not only do racist police kill our people in our communities, but racist managers and HR folks kill our careers in the workplace. And I need your help to try and make it stop.
Well, we've done the best we can here with the Mark Bishop Show, I'll tell you that. And, this is going out on platforms all around the globe. So maybe the old butterfly effect works, Jacquie. Good luck. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Mark. Bye-bye.